Get set, podcast listener, and be ready to win with your mentor, motivator, and marketer, Cam Roberts. Grow your business and achieve your goals quickly with the latest tips, tools, and tactics on business, success, and marketing. Subscribe now and download your free resources at camroberts.com.au.
Everyone, Cam Roberts here, and today's very special guest on Personal Brand Talk is Ernie Harker. Now, Ernie is the billion-dollar branding guy. Now, with that sort of tagline, he doesn't need any other intro. So, Ernie, straight over to you. Why are you the billion-dollar branding guy?
That's a really good question. Like, most of us are trying to find out how we stand out from all of our competitors. How are we going to get people's attention? And I was talking to a guy after, because I'm just like everybody else, trying to find that magic. I do that for other people. And it's super, super hard doing it for yourself.
Yeah.
And I was talking to a guy and he said, Ernie, you realize you helped a company develop a $3 billion brand. Do you think that's significant? Do you think that's unique in any way? And I'm kind of like going, yeah. So instead of being the brand guru, or the branding and marketing expert, which everybody seems to have that title, the billion-dollar brander seems to like get a little of attention. And it's almost like you say that, you drop the mic, you walk away, and they go, okay, that guy's good.
Yeah, that's very good. And so one of the things I like to ask my guests is like, how did they get to where they are today? So for you, Ernie, how did you get to, name yourself and claim that billion-dollar branding guy title? Where did it come from? How did you get there?
Great question again. Man, you're good at this. You got it figured out.
I've had a couple of goes on the rodeo.
Well, like anybody will probably find themselves currently not where they were expecting to go. Yeah. And I'm no different. I started as an illustration guy. I studied illustration in college. I wanted to be either an animator for Disney or a concept artist for like a video game company. But I got my first job in the ad agency business, working for a really big ad agency. And I was the concept designer. So a creative director or an art director would have something in his mind that he wanted to kind of express. And I had to visually represent that on paper so that the creative director and art directors could take it to the client and say, this is the concept that we have. And I became really, really good at that. And I was learning from fantastic creative directors, art directors for clients like Intel, iOmega, Ask Jeeves. Okay, so that tells you I've been doing this a long time. Yeah. Ask Jeeves is like a gazillion years old. It was before Google.
Yeah,
okay?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So, but all of our clients were high tech. And I basically started as a production guy, creative production guy, that evolved into like not just creating marketing materials, but creating marketing materials that had a life, that had a connection between the previous marketing, ad or promotion or whatever. So these weren't just like one-offs. They needed to be integrated. And so I became highly interested and highly involved in branding. How do I make each element, or each touch point similar to and make it easier to recall the last one I saw. So they built up on each other instead of just like individual things. So worked for an ad agency. 2 years later, I started my own thing, 1995, which is 100 years old. And I had a small firm, like there were 8 of us, and then there were 16 of us. I never got bigger than 16. I was a small fry. And then we got one big client named a company called Maverik, a convenience store chain. Like I never thought I'd work for a convenience store chain, ever. No one says, someday I'm going to work for a gas station.
Yeah.
Like not even I did. But they had the same problem. We developed a new brand for them that took off like wildfire. 9 years later, they hired me full time. I spent 8 years with them and built it into a $3 billion brand. Yeah. And super, super excited about it, super proud of that experience. Wrote a book, Your Brand Sucks. which kind of tells the story and explains the process so that anybody who reads it can go, oh, that's how you build a brand.
Right.
So
yeah.
That's in a nutshell my history of the last 30 years.
Excellent. Very good. You mentioned that you work for a creative agency, an ad agency. Obviously, you've done a lot of marketing, marketing. Now, we get a lot of people listen to the show that, run their own business, entrepreneurs, coaches, consultants, other agency owners, people like that. Where do you see the distinction between branding and marketing? Because I know the people that I talk to and guests that I have on the show, there's not a clear distinction between branding and marketing, but you and I know there is, right? But
yes.
I want to hear your take on it. But
okay.
a lot of people come across to me and, I'll be saying, oh, where's your branding, guide, or where's your brand? And they're, oh, well, here's my logo. It's like, no, the brand, where's the brand exist? So what's your take on brand and how is it different from marketing?
Okay, marketing uses brand.
Correct. Yeah.
As an ingredient.
Yeah.
And the way I define this, so marketing is the strategy to get my message into the minds and hearts of my customers. Okay. The brand is the plate on which that message is served.
Yeah, that's right.
So that there is this consistent identity of where that message is coming from. The look, the feel, the tone, the personality, and that brand is what allows the message to be received, enjoyed, absorbed, and remembered. Because if it's just information without the brand, it's going to be like,
yeah,
but
that's really good.
If the brand is strong, if there's an emotional connection with that brand, then the message will go, bam, it sinks.
Yeah, that's really good.
How does that fit?
Oh, yeah, 100%. The analogy about the plate, it's just so spot on, isn't it? Right. Mm-hmm. And I often, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I often say to people, you've got to put your brand first before your marketing.
Yes.
You can't just go out there and market if you don't have your brand tight, right?
Yeah. And because your brand, so I define brand with 4 different steps. The first 2 are kind of big. The first one is what is it that makes me different?
Yeah.
What is the uniqueness about me? And then what is my desired customer reaction? So what's different about me and how do I want my customers to react? Do I want them to go, oh my gosh, that guy was kick-A. That guy was exciting, which is what I want people to think about me. Versus, man, that guy was very intelligent, very soft-spoken, direct and to the point. When you know what the strategy is, then you can develop the logo, the fonts, the colors, all the stuff that you see, the language, the tone of that language to represent or deliver that intention. If you don't know what the intention is, it doesn't even matter.
Yeah, that's really good. And Ernie, one of the things that I get the vibe from you is that you're really good at telling stories, right? And that's part of branding, right? So how does someone take that skill of telling stories and have their brand tell a story online in a digital age? Yeah,
great question. Here's one of my favorite brands is Liquid Death. Are you familiar with Liquid Death, the water brand?
Yeah, we've seen it. We don't have it in Australia, but I have seen it online. Yeah.
Here's I'm a big fan of Donald Miller about story brand and stuff. But one of the things that brand does is it defines the space, the time, the environment that the story plays out in. So for example, in stories, if I told you a space drama, something that looks very, very old, but it's way into the future. That's futuristic. We'd know it was Star Wars.
Yeah.
Because there is a setting, a place. So the storyline is very similar to Harry Potter, any number of really great movies. The stories have a consistent thread, but the brand is the placing, the environment, so that you can distinguish one story from another. Yep. So brand is the setting of the story, so that when you tell the story about the hero, the customer, who has this really great experience, you tell that story in the tone and personality and look and feel of your brand. The way Liquid Death does it It says we have water, but they don't even talk about water. They talk about their high energy, rebellious, macabre, rock and heavy metal rock style attitude. They don't say our water hydrates you better than our competitors. It has nothing to do with water.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the story isn't about the product. The story is about the experience, the thing that makes you different. And it's really hard for independent people coaching or whatever to get away from their mind, away from the features and benefits of their product.
Excellent. Very good. So that you've spoken about branding kind of at the high level, right? At the very experienced level where people experience the brand for the first time or see it consistently on social media. But maybe give the listener some strategies about how to weave the brand and the brand story and the branding all through the way or through the different steps of a marketing funnel or a sales pipeline. So sure, you can have your branding like out front, like on social media or on your website, but how do you weave that into email marketing? How do you weave it into your, the back end of, keeping up with customers and creating those additional touch points?
Because every touch point needs to be dipped, immersed, saturated, marinated, and have the flavor of your brand.
Correct,
so that when they see a text message or an email or a social media post, it is drinking from the same source.
Yeah.
So the way I do that is I'll go, in the brand strategy, there is a process, a step that I go through that is about describing using 5 or 6 adjectives to describe your brand. Okay. But 2 of those adjectives can't be used to describe any competitor, which makes it challenging. Okay. But when you've defined those adjectives, and there's an exercise that you can go through. I've got a book that you can go through that kind of goes through the process of finding those adjectives. When you find those adjectives, the next step is to develop a vocabulary.
Right.
Like, what words do I use? My name's Ernie Harker. My brand is Ernburn.
Right. I love
I have a flaming logo on my hat,
good.
Ernie on fire.
Yeah.
I use red all the time.
Yeah.
But the words I use frequently: spark, ignite, light, fuse, things like that. Yeah. So imagine taking ChatGPT and you go, my brand is about energy, excitement, enthusiasm. I use words like ignite, light, spark, and fuse, okay? Or stoke. These are, but when you know what the brand strategy is, like the thing that makes me different is my energy and my fire motif.
Yeah, that's
Once
good.
I have that, ChatGPT, if I say, can you give me a text message reminding people of my upcoming appointment in 30 words or less, it's going to use my tone, my energy, and my words so that when you see that, you'll go, oh, this comes from Ernie versus this looks like it came from the standard reminder of the platform.
Yeah, excellent. So very good.
That's how I use those tools and generative AI to get me stuff fast and on brand and it's accurate. Oh,
yeah, I love it. Yeah, I love it. That's so good. That's such a good tip. That's gold right there, on fire, Ernie.
It's worth it. It's on fire. I love it.
Yeah, that's good. Now let's switch gears for a minute because you've spoken about billion-dollar brands like the convenience stores that you kind of grew into $1 billion business, and then you've flipped a little bit and you spoke about your brand Ernburn, right, and the fire and the colors and the red and the light, right? So let's talk about personal branding versus corporate branding. How do you see personal branding play out these days when you've got the likes of, say, Gary V? He's got more followers and more people want to connect with Gary than they do kind of, know of his media company. And then you've got the Grant Cardones of the world and, things like that. So how do you see personal branding in the marketplace, and what do people got to look out for, to create that personal brand that people want to fall in love with?
Good question. What I think is interesting is that we do see the Gary V's and the Cardones and stuff like that, and we go, oh, I want a brand like that. First of all, that's lightning striking.
Yeah.
There are so many people that are awesome. Like their content is next level, but they don't have nearly the reach that those guys do. But they had the planets line up for them, right? But what's interesting about those guys is that they are very intentional and very strategic about the image that they want to come across. So they're very consistent about that. Versus, how do I feel today, and how do I want to be genuine in myself today?
Yeah, like, right. Yeah.
And that's, I tell people, be genuine in your strategy and affect that strategy. And then if you feel crappy, you just go back to your strategy and you come out on top.
Yeah.
That's how you are. Don't go, oh, I need to be true to who I am. No. If you're having a crappy day, you still have to go back to your brand. Because can you imagine if Campbell's Soup said, we feel green today. We're going to do some green cans because that's how we feel today in the moment. It's like, no. That's inconsistent.
Yeah.
So it's the definition of having a brand strategy that you stick to, and then you're genuine with what the messaging, the tone, the personality that you have, and let that grow, organically. I just feel like, I've compared myself to these big guys, and I go, well, I've got a really good brand. I've got great content, great ideas. Why am I not Gary Vee? It's like, I feel that the universe kind of knows where I need to be.
Yeah, that's
and if
good.
I'm true to myself, and if I'm consistently posting and communicating my message, it will find the audience. And if it doesn't, it's like, I can spend a lot of money and try to get a bigger audience, but I don't want to play that game. I feel like the only people that win are like the media companies that are charging me money.
Correct. Yeah.
So and then to find like the really fun, cool stories that you highlight. And like, hopefully someone will hear our conversation and go, oh my gosh, I thought Ernie was fun to listen to. Where else can I find him?
Yeah, that's good.
Oh my God, I've never heard this interview before. He's a great interviewer. Where can I find more information about this guy?
Yeah, that's really good.
That's what I feel about personal branding. But then the look, I think the package has to reinforce that intention. So when someone sees you, they go, this guy's insightful. He's inquisitive. He's deep thinker. Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, they're right. Yeah.
You have glasses, and that helps you look more intelligent. I put these on because I want people to think I'm intelligent too.
I have glasses because I'm 52 and I need to see the screen. That's good. Hey, look, we've spoken about where branding used to be, like where you started off. We spoke about where it is today. Like, so, going back 20 years, the brands didn't exist online. Like, your brand had to be in the newspaper, a magazine, like the signs and, the colors and uniforms and, things like that. Today, it's online. It's got to be on screens and socials and, things like that. Then you've spoken about how to use AI to effectively get the brand message out there after you've created the tones and the words and the things like that. So let me future-proof it, or let me future-pace it, I should say. Where do you see, as the billion-dollar branding guy, where do you see branding going in the next 10 to 20 years?
I think branding becomes more critical than the functionality of the product that we have, because there's the ability to get whatever you need done. A branding guy.
Right. Yeah.
There's a gazillion people who can do really good branding. Okay. And if I try to promote myself as, hey, get good branding done, affordable branding for small businesses. Okay. I'm going to be competing with a gazillion other people. But if I can create a personality around that brand so that when people are searching for me, instead of saying, find me a branding guy, what I need them to think about is, find me Ernie.
Yeah.
Find me that Ernburn guy. So, because I think we're not, when we search for things, we're not going to the third page.
No.
In fact, a lot of us are using like
5 seconds on the
Google.
first page. Yeah.
Yeah. We're asking Alexa or Google or whatever, and we're saying, who's the best person on branding? Who's a really good social media influencer on X?
Yeah.
Well, if I'm not on the list, then I've got to just work on my, I'm not going to be that global level. I just got to work on my community then.
Yeah,
And that's okay.
good. Excellent.
So I think it's going to change because I want people to be asking for me, not for what I do. I don't want people going like the water example. Instead of people saying, you know what, I'm thirsty, I want some water. Liquid Death goes, people don't have to be thirsty to want the lifestyle that Liquid Death promotes.
Yeah,
so
right.
I want to feel cool. I want to have a refreshment. I want Liquid Death, not I want water.
Yeah.
That's why I think branding is going to be more important, because the functionality becomes too easy to get. Functionality is available.
Yeah, right. That's
Brand
really
is
good.
what helps you set apart and create a, not just what's different, but different in a way that's preferred. You know, like I want to be associated with that brand because it has a story or a personality that I like. Like the reason we like hanging out with other people is because of their personality, the way they talk, the way they look, their perspectives on things. So we as brands need to, like, what are we, like, especially as individual, like sole proprietors and small businesses, we need to be articulate about what we think is fun and what we think is cool, so that our clients that like the same things we do go, oh man, I like this guy. Versus I'm just going to focus on functionality of my product and offer promotions and deals and stuff. When we do that, we disconnect the emotional aspect of buying.
Yeah,
and
that's good.
95% of all purchase decisions are emotional based. They're subconscious. So if we're not engaging emotionally with people, with conversations, with social media posts, with interviews, we're losing an opportunity to connect.
Yeah, excellent. That's really good. Now, you've mentioned Liquid Death a few times, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if someone's listening to the podcast today and they've gone, gee, I like this Ernburn guy, he's really cool, right? But what are the first 3 steps that someone's got to go from, you know, they've recognized their branding sucks, right? They go like, I'm failing this terribly. Like I've heard Cam and Ernie today, and I know I'm failing this, you know, terribly. How do they go from they know they need to change to the first 3 steps, not the third steps like Liquid, but you know, Death, but like what are the first 3 steps that someone needs to take?
Step 1, just get my book, Your Brand Sucks, because it outlines the whole thing. Okay. The first step in that brand or in that process is to identify what makes you different. And there's 2 different ways to do that. One is to mine for it. Many of us have something already like for sole proprietors, small businesses like you and me, right? There's something about us already that's different. I already have like this natural enthusiasm, energy, optimism and stuff. And so I just kind of magnify that. Yeah. Okay. And then I create a visual representation, flame, fire, that I can use to embody that personality. So first, identify the personality, identify what makes you different, so that you can mine for it, or you can just create it. I was talking to an independent insurance agent, and he's like, "There's nothing cool about me. I've never climbed Mount Everest. I'm not really good looking. I got nothing." And I go, "Well, tell me a little about yourself." And he said, "I see him at the gym almost every day." He says, "I love exercise. I love going outside and, you know, working out and hiking and stuff." And I go, "Stop right there. If we created a brand for your insurance agency, your little firm, that was all about fitness, exercise, so that your language was, hey, let's go jog, or let's take a walk, or let's lift this, or, you know, the whole thing kind of like represented his personality. Yeah. Well, now you've got some difference between all the other insurance agent guys out there.
Yeah. They just want to sell insurance, which is just the feature, right?
Yeah, exactly. And everybody else sells insurance. All the other people sell insurance, and it's because it's so regulated, there's not a lot of price difference. Yeah. So you kind of go with who you like. And so I said, look, make sure that your personality, whether you're a realtor, independent insurance agent, where it's the person that makes the difference. Make sure it's not just a beauty contest, that there's something about you. Do you love to fish? Are you a surfer? Like, what is it? Are you a yoga guy? Maybe it's your hobby that you can focus on. Maybe you love to draw. Well, whatever it is, let's create let's bring some personality into your brand, so when someone sees you, maybe you love to draw. Well, show some of your sketches on your website.
Yeah, that's really good.
Put it on your business card. Maybe you do a portrait of people. I don't know, but the more you do that make you special, the more people go, oh, that's the art guy. And I'll bet you anything, people who love art are going to go, oh, I want that insurance guy.
Yeah, that's so good. Hey, Ernie, we're almost out of time, but you mentioned your book. So if someone wants to get a copy of the book, reach out, and check out what you do on Ernburn. How do they do that? Where do they find you? Where do they got to go?
Go to my website, ernburn.com. It's ERNBURN, like burn fire, ERNBURN.com. And there's a pop-up that will give you a digital copy of the book and my brand workbook. So you kind of follows along. It is the easiest and fastest way to develop a brand strategy. So, and then you can reach out to me there. I'm also on LinkedIn. I'm fairly active on LinkedIn. So there are not very many Ernie Harkers in the world. Yeah. So I'm probably the first one you see.
Excellent. All right. Well, Ernie, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me, man. That was awesome.